Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, we haven't actually started the live debates yet, so this is the pre-show. We've got 10th Man with us. How are you doing, 10th Man?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Really good.
Hey, if I want to share a screen, do I hit that thing next to the hang-up sign? That shows a camera?
No, that'll just turn your camera on. If you're on an iPad, I don't believe you can share your screen.
Oh, okay.
Not for mobile devices.
I got you. I'll switch to a PC next time. I put together that quote. I think you asked me where I got it from, and I just typed it out so you could see it.
What was the quote?
The quote was on information, I think. Hang on. I typed it out and I forgot all about it. I'll pull it up here. Oh, yeah, it was the science of taxonomy is crucial not to biology alone, but to all science. And I read it yesterday, and I think you asked me where I got it from, and I gave the source, but I figured, okay, I'll just show it. But since I can't.
Is it on a link?
No, I typed it up on kind of like.
I see.
Like on a PowerPoint slide.
Okay. If it was something that was capable of being presented by someone else, I'd just say I'll stick it in the back chat and someone else will eventually present it.
Yeah, no big deal.
No, I do vaguely.
No, it was just talking about knowledge depends on language for its intelligibility. All meaningful words need to be precise, so you can have one set of discrete ideas to separate from another discrete ideas. And if a word means everything, actually it means nothing. So just good for our topic when people talk and use words.
Yeah, John went through the Socratic method with Ruh, if memory serves me. Hey,
yeah.
Paul.
Yeah.
Hey,
Paul.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Very well. I like Fridays.
I'm on my phone. You like Fridays? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Every time I start bringing up the schedule for the two channels, if John was here, he'd be going nuts and sighing and all this stuff. But on a Friday, both of the live shows go out on the second channel, and that means that it's just a little bit less stressful.
Well, that's always a good thing.
I'll give you an example. So, I won't mention her name, but a particular young lady came on and decided to expose her breasts during one of the shows, and that was last Friday, right?
Yeah, I think I was the one that called that out right away, and then Anthony jumped in after that.
Yeah, I was babbling on, and you were trying to get I could hear you interrupting when I listened back, and now I know why you were trying to interrupt. But yeah, because it was on the second channel, it went out to a more limited audience, and once the show had finished, it gets automatically switched off. Nobody in the live audience noticed, and the PVR's switched off, so you can't go back and rewind. So it meant that without issue, the show carried on. It got turned off at the end, and with very minimal stress, because it switched off anyway. I went and edited it out on the live show, did a real hack job of it, and then later on just removed it from the video I was uploading for the main channel. But I didn't have to stress about it. And it's like, but there's a greater chance of something going wrong on the main channel if you only stream on the main channel, right? So if you split it up a little bit, at least it then spreads the risk a little bit. And in that case, that worked out quite nicely because it happened on the second channel.
Yeah, just think about the early days of TV where it was live. versus now.
Well, we're doing it live, right?
Yeah, no, I'm saying now with TV they got delay switches on TV and radio in case someone says something. But if you're live, you can't tap that.
Right. Yeah, and I try and get it down to the lowest possible latency. So because it's obviously reasonably chat interactive, or at least sometimes it is. And if someone's asking a specific question from the chat, you want to be able to have them ask the question and get the reply, and it be relatively, flowing. Whereas if you then reply and give a question back to the chat and you're waiting the 30-second delay, and then you see their question, that's useless. Whereas it's like it's down to seconds now. There's literally about 2 or 3 seconds delay between if you type something in and it'll appear on the actual live stream feed. Although there's nobody in the chat at the moment. So it's not due to start for another 20 minutes, so nobody's here. That said, it didn't publish yesterday. Do you remember?
What's that?
So we started the live show, and Aaron was like, I don't see it. It's not live.
Oh, yeah. I remember at the beginning there was a hiccup.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't restart the show, and as far as I could tell, I should have checked it a bit more thoroughly, but as far as I could tell, there wasn't any issue. In other words, it'll go out all there when I publish it in a month's time, because again, that was on the second channel. So if there is issues like that, which there are occasionally, it's nice to know that they're on a delayed start anyway. They're going to go out a day later on the main channel, so I can actually correct anything that's gone wrong with them.
Well, I mean, in your position, you're always multitasking, so you've got more than one thing going on, whereas on our end, we're just doing one thing.
Yeah. Thursday's stressful because that's the day I switch channels. So halfway through the show, so that I've got a Thursday show on the main channel. The first show goes out and stays out. The second is on the second channel. But while the panel's all talking and interacting and there's stuff going on, that's when I switch channels, and that's quite stressful.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how you do it, to where you get your weekends and you can do Ballbusters. So you found a way to do it, but like you said, it can be stressful.
Yeah. At least originally it wasn't for Ballbusters. I corrected you yesterday. I'm like, no, I do Ballbusters. I don't get a weekend off. But that's what it was originally planned for. And I was like, yeah, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, not doing shows and just delay the start of a couple of shows. And then very quickly it turned into, oh, so you've got Saturday free to do Ballbusters then. It's like, okay. So I've been roped into it.
Oh, you're free, huh? Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's a hit. I think Ballbusters, when initially you took that spot because Globebusters took down their time frame, I think that was smart. And then when they came back, you said, okay, that's fine. Now I'll just go do Ballbusters this different way. And now that's been a hit because you take that topic and get, the panel is just a few, and you have the Discord. Not that many people are on Discord, but I enjoy it very much.
Yeah, I've been playing with that yesterday, actually, talking of Discord. So Betty wanted to host the whole show on Discord. And I said, yeah, I've not got an issue with that. So we set it up yesterday and got it looking hopefully okay. Normally, you set it up and practice and get it looking okay. I even streamed it just so I could, have a look at the end result, i.e. how it looks to an audience member. And it looked okay to me at the end. It looked rough at the start, but that's the whole point of doing it, right? On a practice run. So I'm hoping that on Saturday it'll all look slick and all work as it did when I practiced on Oakley chord yesterday. But yeah, it was stressful. Just setting it up stressful because you've got 3 people telling you what to do. I'm not at all familiar with Discord, so I'm asking questions, and obviously you get your answer. They can't see your screen. They're having to try and describe it.
Oh yeah, that could be akin to driving an automatic and then jumping into a manual car, and then people expect for you to drive without thinking, wait a minute, I don't drive manual, I only know automatic.
Right. "15 minutes. We'll start live."
Yeah, that was pretty funny when is it Roofy? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Roofy.
Roofy. Oh, I had so much fun with the greenhouse and the greenhouse cover with him, and his name is Roofy, so it kind of sounds like a roof. And I mean, how could they get on in like a public show like this and say that a roof, whether made of wood, metal, or in my case, plastic for the greenhouse, doesn't act as a container to the heat that it traps? How in the world can someone actually say that and think they're smart?
Globehead, it's an affliction.
It's just so boggling, though. I mean, you can be a globehead, but you shouldn't say stupid things like that. It just destroys your position.
Yeah, but affirming our position's far worse in their mind, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the whole point of the logic, right? You ask penetrating questions, and then they know if they answer, they're going to affirm our side, so they have to answer in an absurd way, and then you destroy the argument because the answer is absurd and they said it.
Yeah, like Brenda. You start discussing the sky vacuum, and she's like, where does it say it's a vacuum?
Yeah.
Like, descends it into absurdity.
Well, just ever since I've been in school as a young kid to now, that's what they've been saying it was. So how can she all of a sudden deny it?
And when somebody actually went and got the origins of the rhetoric and the reasons why it's designed in that model to be a vacuum, she rumpused it. You're like, what a bitch.
Yeah, just playing dumb or changing history doesn't make your point either.
Yeah, these people are cucks to the mainstream narrative, aren't they? So,
I mean, it's devastating. Phuket, Nick at Phuket put out a nice video, 10 points. It was labeled. And he starts off with the distance to the sun. That first, one of the questions we have. It was really well done.
cool. Just at 10,000 subscribers during a live stream that I was watching him on.
Oh, nice.
He's a very modest guy, so he's like, well, I'm not here for subscribers. I'm very pleased that I've got them, and etc. etc. But that was never my desire. To suddenly be
No, you could tell he's a genuine soul.
Oh, Nick's great. He's sort of the Earth guy, just a really great guy.
Yeah, no, he's a wonderful human being. I mean, he's just his everything about him exudes, caring and love and all that.
Yeah, he and I started making videos about this subject at about exactly the same sort of time. So he and I both had about 200 subscribers at a similar time, and we were looking at each other's videos, you know what I mean? And we've both grown at a very similar rate.
Well, that's a good history to go to. Are you still hanging out with a lot of the people you started out with, like Nick, or do people kind of go their own separate ways and don't stay in touch?
Oh yeah, I mean Martin was really the first person that I met up with, and he sent me a message this morning about a reference and various other things. Yeah, I mean I keep in touch. Same with Patricia. I haven't spoken to her for a little while actually, maybe a couple of weeks. Longest I've probably not spoken to Patricia. Having a new kid, just lose track of time completely.
Yeah. So would you care to give a number of how many people started Flat Earth and are still Flat Earth? Have any gone back to the globe?
Yeah, fake spaceman in space. He liked or it seemed like he was into it being quite a small niche community, and as it grew, he separated himself from it and sort of alluded to being a globehead again. But then I heard him in various debates smashing globeheads, so I don't know. He was a bit of a weird one.
Maybe he's the Trojan horse. He just infiltrated them.
Maybe. I think his problem was more with the people, like Anthony Estee describing Flat Earth like it's the people, and it's like, no, Flat Earth's just what we're standing on. That's it. There's nothing really more to it. I'm not demeaning the lie by saying that, but that is kind of, you wake up in a cave, you're not going to concern yourself with the revelation that you're standing on a flat plane, right? Just go about your business, do your farming, do whatever. That's it.
Yeah.
So, Validation Boy was around when I first started. He's still around. Tim Osman was around. He's still around. I haven't seen much of the concave guy. What is it, Stephen Christ? I haven't seen him in a while. Who else was around that isn't now?
Well, it takes the dedication and time to create a good YouTube channel. So it could be for many reasons they stopped their channel.
Right. Stars Our Souls. He's not around anymore. He disappeared very shortly after I started making videos, maybe 6 months after I made videos. He pretty much shut down his channel. And I remember at the time talking to Stephen Chess about it, and Stephen Chess was absolutely gutted. But the guy basically was like, yep, I've put out my information. People have received it. I'm done. Bye-bye. And then he just went. Shut down and off he went. Never to be seen again.
Yeah, he did his part. I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of how he said it. You know, I've done my bit. That's it. I don't need to dedicate loads more time to this. You think fair enough? Good for you. Hope you're doing amazingly well. That was one of the early videos. I remember watching Patricia Steer with him doing. I think it was actually her first show. It could have been her first show. Maybe it was a second show. I forget. But a very, very early show. And then I think a couple of months after it sort of shut down, or just before he shut down and disappeared, he did one last show with her. But yeah, he's definitely completely gone now. I can't really think.
No,
of
I used to watch more flat Earth channels. Now I've just my own choice. I'm not saying right or wrong, but you're my main, and I'll say why. And then I like Nick at Phuket, and every now and then a few others that put out ranty type of footage. Ranty one of them, and Wide Awake is another, and stuff like that. But the content I get from your show is so different than the content from these other shows, in the sense of for debates or for dialogue. Your show stands out. That's why I was attracted to your show.
Oh, thank you very much. I like it too. It's one of those things that I not so recently, but fairly recently read about YouTube, and it was saying that if you're expecting to be a successful YouTuber, you've got to watch your own channel. And they weren't saying watching your own channel will make you successful. What they mean by that is, if you enjoy your own content and you're keen to watch your own content and engage with your own content, then there's a good chance that it's going to be good for at least a few other people as well, people that are similar to you. There's probably a fair few YouTubers that literally will stick a video up and not even watch it themselves. There's a certain number of videos that people make lists of them, unwatched videos, literally 0 views. Not even the person who's uploaded it's watched it. So how can you expect other people to enjoy your content if you don't? And I think I said it on yesterday's show. I actually do engage with and watch on the second channel. So when the re-ups go up, the Uncut and After shows, I'll be there in the audience participating with the chat on the premieres. And it's because I enjoy the content too. Often it's not me talking, it's someone else with them. But obviously I'm going to take me out of that equation, but I'm just saying, when there's other people discussing stuff, you get to actually listen in more detail, and you hear stuff that you didn't hear when I'm sat here now. Some things slip me by, especially if it's just after I've shut my mouth. So there's various subtle things. One of them, the physics said yesterday, and knocking George Netanyahu, and just after I finished speaking, physics opens his mouth and the gate opens just on time, perfectly for him to say something very rude. But it just slipped on in there.
Oh, God. So you said the timing was magical.
Say again?
Yeah, basically you're saying the timing of when you stopped and he talked was magical. It just happened perfect.
Well, to listen back to, but what I'm saying is, in the moment, I didn't hear it. It's.
Oh yeah, okay.
I didn't hear it when the show was made, even though I'm obviously sat here making it. You'd think I'd hear all of it, and I do. But sometimes, when you're particularly passionate about something you're saying, you switch off for just a couple of seconds, maybe, because you've obviously taken your eyes off everything that's going on with the show. So for just a couple of seconds, I do a quick scan of all the things that's going on. And then you've lost that particular moment, but you get to see it again in the replay, or at least I do, whilst engaging with the audience.
Well, I've noticed sometimes there's a delay, and it's not anything you do or I do. It's just a delay in the from one speaker to another, and especially when John comes on Skype, two people are talking, but they don't know they're talking at the same time. John goes, "Who's that talking while I'm talking?"
It's not actually delay. So I've done enough tests now on that, like my testing channel, Oakley Cord, to know how much delay there really is. There's gates, so yes, you can force someone's gate closed by just talking over them, and there's various other things about the gates. But in terms of the delay, it's not even in the fractions. It's in the milliseconds. It's tiny. There's virtually no delay on these platforms. Admittedly, the worst is this one. So Google Hangouts is probably got the most latency, and the best of them is Discord. So that's probably the best audio quality. But you're still talking. It's virtually nothing. There's very, very, very little delay, and even the delay between them is tiny. So on last week's Ballbusters, Betty happened to be in Skype and Discord at the same time, and when she talks, you hear the fraction of a second echo. It's even, you could just about listen to it. No, it's not pleasant, but I'm just saying it's not so distorted and disjointed because there's a massive delay that you couldn't listen to what she was saying. There's just obviously a fraction of a second between the two different devices she's got a mic open in, and it's a really good demonstration of how much delay there isn't when that happened. Not that I didn't know that was the case anyway, but it's just a nice, useful reference point. You can say, Ballbusters 9, Betty talks in Discord and Skype, and there's your delay. It's literally in the microseconds. There's nothing to it.
Yeah, for the most part, that's the way it is. It's very smooth. When you say gate, are you saying that when you're talking and then I talk, I cut your mic off? Is that what you're saying by gate?
Exactly, so that it's not constantly causing horrendous feedback. Within the software, it'll close your channel to a certain extent. So you can listen out for it when you listen to Hangouts. You'll hear people, the gate's not fully open. They'll talk because someone else is talking, and then their gate will open when they shut up or they talk louder.
Okay, that's probably what I'm experiencing more than delay then.
Oh, absolutely. The utilising that is how they will win a rumpusing battle. That's just utilising the gates, figuring out the best way to keep your gate open and other people's closed, especially when they're saying something damning, because that's a really useful tactic. I mean, again, this is something we've been discussing on the last few shows. These guys don't have winning arguments, they have tactics.
Yeah, that's been noticeable lately.
Yeah, it's a poor show if you're a Globehead at the moment, because it's really obvious when the partial arguments that they might present, or the fallacious arguments that they do present, get ripped to pieces really quickly, and all you're left with is the tactics that they play, and that's all they have. It just looks bad on them, if you ask me.
You would think it should be very easy to prove the Earth is a ball. If it was a ball.
Yeah, if it was a ball, yeah, it would be exceedingly easy to prove. It's having to negate the fact that it's obviously and observably flat. That's the typical line that they have to take. Hey, Chocolate's saying, I'm just about to start the live show.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Chocolate Saiyan, Ranty Flat Earth, Paul and 10th Man. Very good to have you all.
Good to be here.
Morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do I sound better now?
Yeah, sounding good. Frosty.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chocolate said I was breaking it.
Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nope.
Any sign of what now?
Earth curvature.
What? Are you insane?
To declare that there is any would be pretty insane at this point, I would say yes.
Oh, can't help you there, Nathan.
What
What do you mean, Ranty? You mean it's not true that you're out there collecting globe proof every day? That's what they all say.
Well, if you've got to try and discredit the best researcher out there, that's the best way to go.
I'd agree. Hey, Chris.
All right.
Yeah, Ranty's ace. I'll back that.
Go ahead, brother.
Hey, Chris, can you hear us?
Yep. Hello.
Good to have you. Any signs of axial rotation?
No?
Nope. Things moving in the sky. That's it.
Any scientific evidence of gravity? Hey, Jessica.
What is gravity?
Very good question. They made it up. It's like unicorn farts. No? No scientific evidence of gravity? Good to have you, Jessica, by the way. Hopefully you heard us.
Hello.
Hello. Any evidence of a self?
Just as a comment.
Go on, Paul.
Whoops, sorry.
That's all right, go ahead.
I guess you've probably seen Riley's video. Those were really good. The relative density videos he's done, and he was on Jeranism, I think, yesterday, going over it. It's pretty good.
Yes, I saw his video and just watched him on Jeranism. Very good show. Check it out. Sleeping Warrior on relative density on Jeranism.
Yeah, I just caught that yesterday. I didn't have a phone for a couple of days, so I just saw his little experiment with the lab code and all that. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, he's sporting a lab coat now.
Yeah, the lab coat gives him all the authority he needs. Just that lab coat only. Wow, I tell you.
I gotta get one.
Me too.
Is Tony around, actually? Is he coming on the show today?
I sent him the link. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Sadly, no.
Sadly, no.
It
What about
is sad. It's very sad.
What about the presupposition itself? Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No.
Well, they would have to.
Well, they might want to find some curvature first and then expand that into an actual ball and then figure out the radius. As opposed to just, let's assume everything and then just assume there's a radius. Put some sticks in the ground, measure a shadow. Oh, look, we got a radius. Don't even know if it's a ball yet, but we got a radius. There you go, guys.
Shout out to Henrik7, is it, for the super chat? Thank you very much indeed for your support. Last but not least, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No evidence whatsoever, Nathan. And to be fair, the Globers don't even know or can't comprehend what a container is. They think a container needs to be fully enclosed.
Wait, who am I? Oh, I just look at the atmosphere. Oh, there you go, proof.
A fundy zealot?
Just look at the atmosphere, Nathan. There you go. That's proof that the atmosphere is what it is. Just look at it. There you go.
look
up, Nathan.
I can say the same about unicorn farts. I believe the sky is blue because it's comprised of unicorn farts. What's that you say? You need some evidence? Well, go outside. It's blue, isn't it? There you go. Proof positive of unicorn farts.
I know we've said this before on here, but I was just thinking about it again. Whoops. Sorry, chocolate. But if you think about it, that's why whoever brought it up before, but the heliocentric model requires gravity and a vacuum to function properly. If we don't have those two, it falls apart.
What model?
The model falls apart. Well,
yeah,
exactly.
what model?
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. I was just making sure.
I'm not here to describe.
To see a model. I haven't seen any model. So.
Has anybody on the panel ever been presented to anything other than Google Earth?
Well, it's in all the textbooks from the day they invented this garbage. So they have the written evidence on their side, or what they call evidence. Now they don't want to refer to it. They don't want to produce a model.
That's a shame, considering they bang on about it so much. You'd think it'd be at their fingertips.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, where is this fantastic heliocentric model? The model that we're always hearing about. Where is it? I want to see it.
You guys
and
around?
All encompassing. I mean, with the stars, galaxy, everything going on inside the Earth, all the weather systems, everything. Where is that model? That's what I want to see.
So yeah, do you remember? Were you guys around when Tiger Dan was making his videos?
I wasn't, no.
Nah, it was before my time.
Fair enough. He rounded out his. He was going to make a 10-part series about this model of a flat Earth he was making, and he essentially put together an azimuthal equidistant projection and said it didn't work for the debunking reasons of plane flights, right? And then his declaration at the end was, "No model, no flat Earth." Well, oh, the irony. No model, no globe Earth.
Exactly. Either way, it's like, the whole point of either way it becomes a reification fallacy anyway, because we don't live on a model. So it's like the fact, oh, well, you don't have a work. It's like even like with your model also having a bunch of mistakes, constantly referring to it is a reification fallacy in itself. So it's like, it doesn't even matter whether it works or not. You're referring to a model and not reality.
Maybe we can get a room full of monkeys, give them typewriters in 15 billion years, and they might come up with a model.
Or Shakespeare, right?
So if you're ever in a panel, if you're ever on like Jose's or somewhere and there's a panel that's like 8 ballers to 2 or something, and you want to get them all flustered and they start talking about models, you say, okay, I have a question based on your ball model. And then you ask, how high do you have to be to see left or right curvature? And you just watch the cockroaches run and spread, and you're going to get 4 or 5 different answers. You're going to get every answer from I can see it at the surface to 35,000 feet in a plane to you have to be above 120,000 feet, the Neil deGrasse Tyson answer. And it's beautiful because none of them know for sure. None of them have ever confirmed it and verified it for themselves. They're just going off. They'll either give you the ball model answer, which is wrong, it's not verifiable, or they'll just give you every answer under the book and you just sit there and laugh.
I mean, the honest answer is that there is no curvature. We don't observe curvature. The high priests can get away with the declarations. I mentioned this on yesterday's show. So the high priests can declare that there is a Coriolis effect and field goals will go in as the Earth turns underneath the straight line of the ball, right? That's a Neil deGrasse Tyson tweet. Well, the same Neil deGrasse Tyson will also declare that, the ISS isn't going to see any curvature, it's a fisheye lens. In other words, all the arguments that we put forward with the strap line, that stuff is flat. Now, he's declaring the reality of the situation, which is to say that you don't ever observe curvature. the Earth is obviously and observably flat, but it will only ever be the high priests of the heliocentric model that will get away with the true declaration of the reality that's facing us all. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. But if you're a low-level space monkey, you've got to declare that, like you say, oh no, you can see it from an aeroplane, or oh yeah, we can see it from ground level because it's calculable in the maths. You know, it's got to be a ball if it's a ball, and it would get ever more bally as you got higher in altitude. It would be apparently obvious that it was a ball if it was a ball. It would become more bally as you went up. You know, they show you pictures of the blue marble. Well, how do you think you get from ground level, where it's obviously and observably flat, to it being a ball? Well, you have a transition with it getting more and more curvy until you get to that shot, which should mean that you get more and more curve. You don't. You know, and the only thing that's ever alleged to be curve is obstruction at the horizon. You never get any x-axis curvature. That's just never observed by anybody ever. It's one of the things that brought me so swiftly to flat Earth, again discussed yesterday. So having done a lot of international travel on aeroplanes and looked out the windows going, wow, look how flat it is, not really realising what I was saying to myself in those moments, you hear the term flat Earth and go, oh my god, that's exactly what I've observed every single time I've looked at anything ever. That's where we are. It's obvious.
Exactly.
You just
if the world
described.
was a ball, if we were living on a ball, it would just be a ball. It would be evident. It would be observable. There's no way we'd be debating this if we were all spinning and sticking to a magical water ball.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
There'd be no justifications for the exclusion of perspective if we actually lived on a ball, because you'd live on a ball and you wouldn't have to worry about perspective. It'd still be there like it is and you can't get away from it, but it would just be a ball with perspective. Well, the only reason they've got to hijack perspective and remove it from their calculations is because that's the only effect you'll actually ever observe, the effects of perspective. Hence the descriptions of Earth curve are actually obstruction at the horizon. Things getting too small to see, basically, is called Earth curve. Not any actual curvature, hence it's a housekeeping question. You know, if you ever get presented with something claimed to be curvature, they're never going to show you anything that's actually curving.
You've described why we're no longer parrots.
Described what?
You've described why we are no longer parrots. We're not parroting anything. We want the facts. Everyone else we talk to is just parroting.
Well, guys, listen. I want to kind of take us away from the term using flat for stuff, because I think it's wrong. I don't think we should be using that word.
How come?
How come?
Because if you look on screen right now, if you look on the screen, that's a video that I took when I was up in Scotland. And as you can see, the water is rippling. Now, that isn't flat. Right? Now, that's the case all over the world. It doesn't matter where you go, you've got movement of the water. And all of the movement of the water has an amplitude which is above your feet at the shoreline. So we can never, ever say that we're looking across flat water. We don't get flat water because it always has motion in it.
Okay.
It's always moving. So you've always got obstruction.
You've never got perfect flatness, and in that regard, Ranty, I'm never going to win an argument about this with you, because you're absolutely correct. There is no perfect flatness. Even the salt flats have got a certain amount of relief. You know, there is no perfect flat. I'll agree. However, and I'm going to steal this example from Morgile. So Morgile used to cite Neil deGrasse Tyson again in a description about Earth being reduced down to the size of about a bowling ball. He said, with the deepest crevices and the highest mountains, you would never ever feel anything other than a perfectly smooth bowling ball. Now, I'm pretty certain that came after he says it's a pear. And then this is hijacked by flat earthers all the time. No, he says it's pear-shaped, slightly chubbier at the bottom. But then he goes on to say that in essence, it's a perfect sphere. Hey, P. Now, just to make the end of my example, and then we'll hopefully get a hello from P. Morgile's example would be to say that if you were to take that same example, now obviously we're not on a sphere, it's not perfectly spherical and curved and smooth, it's perfectly flat by comparison. In other words, yes, you've got the undulations and the topography, and the water itself is never perfectly flat, or very rarely, Might be frozen occasionally, but you know what I'm getting at. You're still correct in what you assert, Ranty. But as a whole, I would say that it's pretty much perfectly flat.
Yeah, but for technical terms, the globe want you to put everything in as flat. So when they talk about a flat Earth, they say, okay, well, how come we can't see the bottom of something in the distance? Yeah, because you live on a flat Earth, right? It's all flat, flat, flat. That's all they ever talk about. Flat this, flat that. Their model is a sphere which has no undulations on the top of it or ripples or anything like that. It is completely spherical. Now, if you're going to do any kind of measurements and you're not taking into account the rippling effects of the tides and the swell and stuff like that, then you're actually doing yourself a disservice to flat Earth, because you're actually losing data. And I mean that as in, if you think your feet, where your feet are stood at the shoreline, if you think that you're 6 feet above sea level or local sea level, that's incorrect, because you have to take into account the swell height and the tide heights, and they are always higher than where your feet are at the shoreline. So, I mean, like Jennifer Ado, when she did her observation of the over Lake Ontario to the Toronto skyline, I mean, she put herself like 6 feet above sea level, but there was cresting waves there with white tips on. Now, you only get waves that are that high, that are 4 feet at least in height. So she actually did herself out when she did a curve calculator. She actually did herself out because those waves were higher than where she was on the shoreline. She thought she was 6 feet above sea level. Technically, she could have been as little as 2 feet above sea level. But the globers always want you to forget that little thing, that there's ripples and there's movement of the ocean and there's swells and stuff like that. They don't want you to talk about that. They want you to consider it being completely flat and motionless with no at an equilibrium. That's what they want you to think. But the ocean is never like that. Lakes are never like that.
Well, actually, when I had a boat,
just in time.
Hey, Arvin. When I had a boat in Newport, it was a twin diesel. I would go to Catalina Island from just off the California coast, 24, 26 miles out. There were days where that ocean was so still, there wasn't even a ripple, a bubble. It was flat as flat. Then there were days when it was so windy and the waves were tossing, I decided not to go. It'd just be too rough of a trip. I think you're being too technical. Maybe for a subcategory, you could say what you're saying and you'd be correct. But for an overall description, topography and contour, sure, it's not flat because you see a mountain or a hillside and maybe a little wake. But for the purposes of debunking the globe, we're talking about a plane with contour.
1 second. Well, no, I'm gonna say that I'm right and you're wrong in this respect, simply because most observations are done at the seaside or within 10 feet above sea level, I would say, and it's generally over water, and people are looking at different buildings and trying to actually calculate that across a body of water that is actually causing obstruction.
Well, is that obstruction limited to high tide, low tide, or are you saying one day it's 100 feet higher?
No, to the local tide height. So where you are at the water, that would be your local tide height or local sea level. So if you're looking across,
well, what's it on the other side?
It would be the same. So you're looking across a body of water. So all the bodies of water are supposed to curve due to the curvature of the Earth, right? However, when you're putting those details into the curve calculator, you're not taking into account what the height of the swell was or what the height of the waves were.
I'm holding a cup of coffee in my hand and I'm holding it still and it's flat and level. When I just move my hand, it looks like what you're describing with the tides. But for the sake of just titles, I don't understand why we have to change flat Earth when you can take it to the next level.
I'm not saying change flat Earth. I'm saying when they try and pin you down to the term flat, right? They try and to do into the curve calcs and your observations and things like that, because it isn't flat water. When you're doing observations over water, they need it to be flat. They need what you're observing across to be flat, and they don't want you to take into account the height of the swell or the tide or the height of the waves. They want you to ignore that fact, and they want you to put your feet at the shoreline and measure your height above the shoreline. Where
I thought water's always flat.
They don't have
Hello.
They don't have perspective in their curve calculator.
Say again.
Well, when they put perspective in their curve calculator, I might be more open to it. But until they put perspective
where I step in.
their
sorry, Ranty, hold on. That's where I step in. So yeah, what Ranty's basically saying is when people are forced into the position where they beg the question, but going forward, his point is still relevant. So I could easily criticise Ranty. I've already done it. He knows my position in this regard. Yeah, you're begging the question when you use the calculator anyway. Yeah, you're excluding perspective when you use the calculator anyway, etc., etc., etc. However, people still use it, and this is a factor that Ranty wants to detail. Now, I would slightly rephrase it and say, well, when you're looking at distance and you want to calculate how much of it is missing, you can figure that out with the angular size. In other words, there's no mention of Earth curve. There's no mention of Earth curve calculations, or the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, to give it its more accurate title. But Ranty's point is absolutely valid. Their way of measuring it, even if we ignore the way that they run the maths, is to say you're standing at the shore and that's 0. Well, that simply isn't the case. You're actually at a minus figure because the water's rising up in the mid-ground between you and your target, potentially. So what you think is 0, and as Ranty's describing it, they would hijack it and say, well, you've got a flat line from your feet to whatever you're claiming is flat in the distance as a target. Well, no, that's not even the case, because the water's rising up. So technically, if you've got your tripod on the beach by the water, you're going to have a massive amount of obstruction because of the amount of water that's physically above your camera position. That's the point that Ranty's making.
Yeah, if I can share my screen for just a minute, I'll try and just elaborate a little more about what I'm actually trying to show you guys, because it's quite difficult to get it through. Let me know when I'm sharing, Nath.
You're on.
I have Asperger's, so that's why I act out sometimes.
That's
Am I
nice.
sharing, Nath?
Thank you, P. Yeah, you are.
Okay, so Rottnest Island. Now, there's been a lot of observations around there. Now, there was a presentation done yesterday on Jose's channel, specifically about an observation done in this location. So I've gone to Rottnest Island. This is the swell forecast for Rottnest Island. And right now, right today, right at this moment in time, we've got all these details here. So right now, we have a 2.4 meter swell. Right, so the amplitude of that is half the height of that. So you've got half is the amplitude, and then you've got the trough, so the peak and the trough. So 1.2 meters is above your feet at the shoreline, right? That's 4 feet in swell. And let me just show you what this would do. We have a distance here from the shoreline here from Perth, looking over to Rottnest Island. It's 10.6 miles. Now, if you was to put your camera down here on the shoreline at Perth and try and view Rottnest Island, and you had your tripod set to say 6 feet on the shoreline here, and you're trying to see Rottnest Island over here, you would put in your curve calcs 6 feet above sea level. You wouldn't be taking into account the fact that there's a 4 foot swell in front of you. There's 4 foot of amplitude on the swell, because that's what it would be. And technically, if you're going to be doing the curve calcs and you want to go down that route, you need to be putting in 2 foot above sea level rather than 6 feet above sea level, because you have obstruction, and it's the water and it's the swell, it's the waves, and it's in front of you and it's causing an obstruction.
Well, Ranty, what you're doing is good, because you're able to explain what's actually happening. Being a former surfer in my younger days, we never went out to surf on a flat day. We went out when there was a swell. But for the sake of what we're doing, or at least from my point of view, is we're saying the Earth is not a ball, it's a flat plane. Now, you're taking it down to more of a DNA level and saying, here's why it looks this way. There's nothing wrong with that. You're explaining the conditions and perspective and the bulge with when the tides come in and out, there's a bulge. All this is important when you want to get to the molecular level of the argument, perhaps. But for the sake of average people, we're saying it's not a ball. Then they'll say, what is it? And we'll say it's a flat plane.
Yeah, that's fine. But we can't, when the globers want to pin you down to a height above sea level, they want you to pin it to a flat surface. And it isn't a flat surface. In some locations, you have 4 meter swells, 5 meter swells, and you could be at the shoreline and you could be 6 feet in height. And you would never be able to see something in the distance simply because of the nature of the water in that region. The swell will always be higher than you.
Now, see, this is kind of your forte, your expertise, because this is what you've been doing. I never even let a glober take me there. I just say, how come I'm able to see things when the 8 inches per mile square tells me I shouldn't? I never get to the molecular level. I shouldn't even be seeing Catalina Island.
But the point I'm trying to make is that every single observation we put into the curve calcs, every single one, never, ever, ever does the observer, the flat Earth researcher, go out and include the wave heights or the swell heights. And if they did, and they subtracted that from their viewer height, they would suddenly find that they're seeing so much more than a globe would. And that this standard refraction nonsense that's curving it around the curvature of the Earth, it will have to be, they'll have to go back to the drawing boards with it, because it won't be able to compensate for the amount of stuff that we're able to see, even on days when it's, when you've got 4 foot swells, even on days when you've got 4 foot swells, and you can actually see things a long, long way away. Technically you could be just 2 feet above sea level. And you're doing yourself a disservice when you're putting into the curve calcs that you're 6 feet above sea level, because you're not actually including in the swell that's in front of you. So it's basically another nail in the coffin for the globe once you start putting in these details.
Well, again, let me reiterate, because I like the back and forth. I don't use the curve calcs. It's their calcs. It doesn't have perspective. They did the math. It's like going to a grocery store that never gives you correct change back. You're eventually going to pick another grocery store. So I don't even use their curve calcs. And if they say, why not? I say, because you don't include perspective. Let's just use your R value, which brings it down to 8 inches per mile square. Why am I able to see these things that I'm not supposed to? Let's just do that. That is so obvious to me. Why would I go to their math to prove flat Earth when they don't even have perspective in it?
Well, you are going to their math at 8 inches per mile squared, but
no. Well, that's all I'm saying. That's all I need, because
it should be more than that. There should be more.
I'm sorry, Ranty. I've got to interrupt for 10th man. So you're off the hook now with him saying that. You spotted it, but I can't let that slip by. So what you said, 10th man, was how much we shouldn't see.
Okay.
So you in your cognitive processing are saying, I'm seeing more than I should?
Yes, based on their R value and 8 inches per mile square, I'm seeing more than I should if we were literally on the ball.
It's a devastating way to phrase it for our argument there, 10th man. Well, that implies that the correct way of viewing things is with the ball disposition, and when we see more than we should, it implies that what we should be seeing is how the ball accounts for it. So that's just something that hopefully you'll relinquish after this conversation, because no, we shouldn't, or what we should or should not see is never going to be dictated by the model. Now that is kind of the sentiment of your point, which is why I'm using you for the example, because I'm sure you'll be agreeable in this regard, right? You're saying, well, what's the use of the calculator? It's a nonsense. It doesn't have perspective. Absolutely correct. But then if you say, well, how much we should or shouldn't see, that's kind of you're siding with Ranty's way of looking at this, because he is into begging the question, and he's well aware of it. I don't even have to ask him to back me. He's had enough in my, from me in his left ear for me to know that that's the case. But ultimately what Ranty's saying is, if you look at it a different way, so you go out as a random watcher, random viewer of this show, and you produce an observation, and you put it out there and go, look at the beautiful flat plane heavens and twinkly lights, and everyone's happy. And then some globehead asshole comes along, takes your detailed explanation of where you were and how high you were and all the rest of it, and puts it through their curve calcs and says, this idiot doesn't realise that the amount that's missing at the bottom completely correlates with the geometric perspective exclusive version of the globe that I reify. And the person goes, hang on a second, how dare you claim that this is a globe earth proof with your reified mathematics that exclude perspective? And then somebody else comes along and goes, well, how can I actually undo that? Because it looks like a solid claim to the untrained eye. Along comes, ranty flat earth, who points out that, well, no, you've said you're right on the shore when you did this, but in reality there's a swell. So even their mathematics doesn't work out. So they've put you in as being 6 foot above the water in their mathematics. Just tell them that you go onto the site that shows how much swell there was on the day, and in reality, the angular size of the swell massively exceeds whatever they're claiming is blocked by Earth curve. So it's a way of cognitively understanding and undoing the mathematics. And as much as I hate it, with enough time, Ranty and Anthony have convinced me that there are times where it's justified to beg the question, and this is one of them. You're not going to, taking it one step further on beyond that, there's going to be a point that someone doesn't give a shit about the curve calc, so they're not brainwashed or care, but still want to examine what they see through the lens of their camera in the distance on the horizon and go, why is the bottom of it gone? Well, the Earth curve calculator is useless. We're not living on a curve, and we're not going to go with geometric perspective exclusive mathematics for what I'm looking at through my lens, but I'd still like to know why it's gone. And then, people like Ranty will have explained, like they are now, that there is things in the near foreground with a greater angular size than you may expect if you work out the distance between you and your target and account for you only being at, I don't know, a foot or two above the water, when in reality you're right on the water because there's a 3 to 5 foot swell that day. So it's useful information, and unfortunately we have to beg the question to do it. So long as it gets lots of disclaimers like this one, elongated, never-ending disclaimers, then at least hopefully some of the audience will appreciate the importance of it, even though we're begging the question.
May I reply to that?
Knock yourself out.
All right. So no disagreement in what you said there. Obviously, we know about the deck. We know about the angular. We know about wave height. If it gets to that minutia, I already know what to say there. I'd say the same things you just said. I'm talking in the general conversation, an item that's 50 miles out, 100 miles out, and we're seeing it on certain days. We shouldn't be able to see based on their R value. All of a sudden, they bring it back. Well, how come this, and that? And I'll say, well, have you taken into account the swell, the miraging, the atmospheric conditions? Have you taken into account where you are on the beach? Why is it disappearing bottom up? We already know those arguments. I'm saying there's 2 ways of doing this. If they want to get into minutia, I'm all ready for it, because they're not adding those things in their curve calculator. So both are right. When you have to go detail, Ranty's going to win. When they don't want to go detail, what I'm saying wins. But they both win either way. But to say I want to change the name Flat Earth doesn't make sense to me.
I didn't say we wanted to change the word Flat Earth.
What were you saying?
I said we need to stop terming things flat, because they aren't. When we're they need the curve calcs. The curve calcs need you to presume that the water is flat constantly, like a bowling aisle. Flat. Completely.
Well, why can't you just say that? Why can't you just say that? Your curve calculators need the water to be flat, and the water's not flat, and here's why.
Well, that's what I'm explaining.
That's what he's doing.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, but you're. Why would I ever acquiesce to what they need when I just want to tell them the truth?
Yeah, it's good that we're having this conversation.
I'm taking the battle to the
Hold on a second, Ranty.
here.
This is the verbalization of that conversation, though. It's useful to have this back and forth, and I'm sure you're intentionally doing it that way, 10th man. We've got your icon back, by the way. Hey, Jim, can you hear us? No sound, my friend. Hello, Jim. Everyone else still here?
Yeah, we're here. Jim just left.
My bad. Carry on as you were. Sorry to interrupt, Ranty.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying the globers need it to be flat for their calculations to work. Every time you start including swell, it's worse for their curve calculator. Their holy grail, their curve calc, it gets worse. Every time you put a bit of swell in, the wave height, stuff like that, their model starts to collapse on itself, and standard refraction doesn't cut it.
No, you just said it. That's exactly what I wanted you to. That's the way I'm seeing it. They can't have both ways. They have to deal with the integrated curve calculator. It needs to be flat, like you said, but it never is because of atmospheric conditions, swells, bulging, whatever. And the angular, if something gets further away like the brick, you're eventually going to lose sight of it, okay? Unless you go up. If you go up, then your angle changes and you're going to be able to see it. Okay, so we go up in the plane and then we never see the drop of the ball. So they can't say they want flat for the curve calculator to work when they're saying it's round as a ball. So it just proves that their whole thing is wrong.
Of course it's wrong. And the reason I've brought this up and the reason I want to go on about this probably for the next month or two is simply because I want every flat earth researcher that goes out to start including this into their data and subtracting those wave heights and subtracting those swell heights from their observations, because then what they'll suddenly find is that instead of, if you're begging the question here, let's suppose in 30 feet should be missing, and then suddenly you actually put the correct details in, and suddenly 50 feet should be missing. And then you actually see, well, I'm seeing down to 10 feet.
Hold on a second, Dranty. Hey, Gus, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, good to have you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good to have you. Can you mute your watch page, please? The page you were watching before you joined? Thanks.
So it's every time we start including the swell, every time we start including the wave height,
hold on a second.
Seriously poor for the globe.
Hold on, Ranty. Hold on. Gus, yeah, no worries. Yeah, don't be afraid of the mute button, Gus. Carry on, Ranty.
Yeah, it's just worse for the globe every time we include that swell and the wave heights, because most observations are done at the shoreline, under 10 feet, I would say, most observations. And if you look on flat earth channels, most of their observations are done around that sort of height. So start including the swell, guys. It's worse.
Well, now that we've done this back and forth, which was lovely, you're saying exactly what I admire your work for. You're breaking down their curve calculator, showing what they don't put into it as issues they have to discuss, why things go this way or that way. And you're saying if you're going to use it, you have to use it properly, and you're showing them why. I have no argument with you there whatsoever. That's perfect.
Actually, you just hit it right on the head there. I'm showing them how to use it right.
Exactly. Now, I'm in total agreement with that, for sure.
Yeah, for a more comprehensive list of all the things that are either excluded or called Earth curvature, then check out Tim Osman's channel. He's got a really comprehensive list of all the things that, like I say, just get excluded or deemed to be Earth curvature. Amazing how many things they do that with.
That was fun, Ranty.
Yeah. Any more housekeeping questions, or are we done?
No, we were done with the housekeeping questions already. I think I covered gas pressure next without a container, did I not? That was the only other housekeeping question, I believe. Any evidence of gas pressure existing without a container?
Yeah, that was the last one.
But yeah, thank you, Ranty. Great presentation, as always. How's it going?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I also appreciate the back and forth that you and Tidmit were having, because the fact that discussion happened, like people being able to see like both sides, because I'm pretty sure that if you were to present that Ranty, the same, like the way that 10th Man was challenging you would cause you to be able to bring up those points consistently and everything like that. And that's a really good example to see. So yeah.
How's your GoFundMe campaign coming along, Ranty?
It's stalled for the time being. I think 2/3 of the way there. 915 out of 1429. So I've got about 500 still to go.
Yeah, maybe let it simmer for a week and then have another push to get to your target. I would, because it was quite a big target. It was a lofty ambition. I'm sure I said that to you when you first started. I said it on the Rantiathon. I was amazed how much you raised during that Rantiathon. Check it out. It's good fun. It had Jaron on there, so it's like an all-star cast, if you like. But yeah, so check out Rantyathon on Ranty Flat Earth channel. It was a good show. There was lots of information rammed in there. I mean, that's what I like about that sort of show. Obviously, the main ambition is to try and raise money for that drone, but ultimately, the people who came along and supported you are just going to disseminate their information to the audience and chit-chat about this particular subject in great detail. And that's precisely what happened, occasionally interrupted by me going, just a reminder to the audience, this is to raise money for Ranty's drone, and smash the super chat and all that stuff. But, you know, apart from my interruptions, it's basically just exceptionally good Flat Earth content, wouldn't you agree? I've watched it again. There's a good indicator. I've gone back and watched the Rantyathon because it was great.
It was nice to get Jared on, and obviously the Flat Earth debate team were there. It was great. You were there. Thank you very much. And you were G'ing everyone up, so it was all good. The P1000 was great last year, and I think that proved was worth its weight in gold. Let's be honest. So if the drone can do the same this year, that would be ace. I've got loads of plans for it anyway.
Sandra's presumably a little bit financially flush than you because she's gone out and just bought one of her own volition. I don't know if you noticed her stream yesterday.
I didn't.
She put out a big sigh from Ranty. No, you two complement each other beautifully. So your footage and Sandra's footage, yes, okay. She's one half step ahead of you, but you'll get that drone eventually. Don't worry about it. But she's got one and she's put some footage out. And kudos, Sandra, fantastic. Yeah, I had goosebumps whilst watching your premiering stream of your time lapses with the P900, and it was just a sunset. You know, it wasn't. She's not picking. I don't know how to say this without it sounding like I'm knocking her. I won't say anything. I'll just say it was exceptionally nice footage. I'm hoping to pinch it. She said I could, so well, I'm going to nick it and have it on some of the debates. But you know, I went out looking for that footage. I wanted that. I went out and searched for it. Just couldn't find it. And now Sandra's produced it, and I said to her in the stream yesterday, you know, this is glorious, this is really nice, it's just what I'm looking for, can I have it? And she said yes. But you'll do various different tasks with yours. The way where you differ from Sandra, don't take this in a bad way, Ranty, is that you're out there, you know, looking for the maths and looking for the untypical observation, whereas Sandra tends to go for more, you know, make it look pretty, which is, you know, what I like. So obviously I shouldn't say that because it's the debate, and your information that you get from your, you know, your reels, if you like, are, like you say, worth their weight in gold in terms of the debate. But I just like the pretty pictures, right? I'm at one with it being flat, so I'm good. I just want to see pretty pictures.
I don't mind wading through the incoming tide and getting down and dirty and filthy to actually get all this data. I don't mind doing that. But in an ideal world, yeah, I'd just love to just set the tripod up at the beach and just film the sunset, because you could get some really great stuff. I mean, what's on screen now, I did that up in Scotland, you see, and it's beautiful scenery. You know, we can all do that, but it doesn't give you any data, does it?
No, but it looks great.
It looks great, but it doesn't get things done. That's what I want to say.
No, I agree. You know, if it wasn't for a lot of your observations, there'd be much more limited discussions in these regards. You know, the last 20 minutes, perfect example of it, right?
Yeah, I want to see. So you just said, where can you find Sandra's? Is she on the P1000 Cool Pics or P900 Cool Pics now?
Both. So she's got two channels. One's called P900 Cool Pics, the other's called P1000 Cool Pics. So Sandra, big shout out to her.
I'll see if I can. I'll bring up a channel actually and just spam it in the side chat, because I think she needs some more subscribers. Let's be honest, she does some great stuff.
10th Man and I were talking about this before the show started, about, you know, what we actually watch, mainly in reference to Nick. Big shout out to Phuket Word, who's recently hit 10,000 subscribers. Woo woo! But you know, if there's certain videos, you are amongst the list. You know, a video will come out from Sandra or yourself, and it will get watched by me. Because they're always great. So hopefully you and Sandra will grow your channels, same as everybody else that I wish well. But obviously there's so much Flat Earth content out there. There isn't enough hours in the day to watch it all. There are people out there who do. I'm talking to Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer, who basically know everything that's going on. They're just like the current affairs people within Flat Earth. Oh, I can't possibly leave out Dearth, who's probably even better in that regard. So I don't think there's ever been an instance where I've sent a link to Dearth and he hasn't already watched it. And it's sometimes down to the minutes. In other words, it'll come out I'll watch a couple of minutes of it, having seen it published there and then. It's come up top of my list on the subscriptions feeds. I'll watch a couple of minutes and go, this is really good. I'll send it to Dearth. You know, you've got to keep your handler happy. So I sent it to Dearth, and he'll reply within minutes saying, oh, already seen it, you know. That's so 5 minutes ago. That's normally his reply. Yeah, that's so 5 minutes ago. But yeah, I can't do that. I can't watch everyone's, but I'll watch yours. I'll watch Sandra's. Nick, definitely. I'll always watch him. Obviously, Anthony, I'll always watch his material. There's 2 dozen others. Go on, Ranty.
How about me?
Obviously, you know I'm in your chat. You see me in there.
Mm-hmm. Did you see me? Did you see Brenda? The last part of my show today.
Didn't I was chatting with 10th Man. I'm sorry, Ranty. I'm sorry, Arwin.
Right. Oh, it was amazing. Like, I totally caught her out on a very idiotic, brutal mistake concerning genetics, where she basically claimed that epigenetics was the same as that it was mutation based. And then we looked up the definition, and it was specifically mentioned that it wasn't.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Wait, didn't she also say something to the effect of gravity is not the independent variable in an experiment? That's
that came
meant to
before
prove
that.
gravity.
It was pretty impressive. She was there for like 40 minutes or something, and just being her usual Brenda self. And I ended up pretty much shouting at you, at her, just like you would.
Just can't help it with some of them.
She was lying to my face about things, and I totally looped her on it, I totally magnifying glass on it, and just said no, you're on purpose taking this word out of context. You're inserting a meaning of a word in a different field on purpose, and she even admitted it. Absurd.
Troll.
Look, it's pretty interesting.
Speaking of what you just said before, Nath, when you said that it was so last year or something, what you said about birth. Well, I came onto Arwin's show. I think it was on, would it have been Tuesday or Monday, Arwin? And I stepped in for just a moment because I was pretty pissed off, because I'd just done a search for Ranty Flat Earth on YouTube and saw that some no-named YouTuber had put a video out trying to say that the inferior mirage was where the curvature of the Earth was. So I did a little presentation on Arwin's and just completely wrecked him. I mean, and his idea that the inferior mirage is where the curve of the Earth starts is, again, like you say, Nathan, so last year. That's what the globe believed last year.
Flat Earth bird number 182. Sleeping over mostly, but you were also in it. Yep.
Just to piggyback on Arwin's point, mutations delete information from the genetic code. They never create higher, more complex information. And Brenda says the opposite every time, but every source says what I just read.
Well, the thing is, I took everything I said out of my knowledge of what I've learned in the last 20 years, and I took this very seriously over that entire period. And then she looked it up, and I was just right. It was pretty astounding to see that it was actually right, because I didn't look this up in front.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be amazed that something that you've asserted or declared is correct. You should naturally assume that what you're, unless you naturally lie.
Right, but I'm just sometimes amazed that I just know all this stuff.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that's slightly different. Fine.
Knowledge is amazing.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, till you realise that a lot of the shit you learn is totally incorrect.
Yep.
That's slightly disappointing.
Presuppositional bullshit.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
But it's a fine line between throwing the baby out with the bathwater and rejecting everything you've ever known ever, and figuring out where it's wrong slowly, painstakingly.
Yeah, she still claimed that the scientific method basically didn't have to have the independent variable as the cause. It literally came to that. And she didn't really... she forwarded me to... one of her interpretations of it. She's forwarded it before. And then I looked into the sources. And it was all about environment. It was like the source was environmentalism. It was all biology, microbiology, and environmental studies. So it was a completely different context of the scientific method, basically. It was just blatantly, obviously, not about physics.
Well, the people who will want to take you away from the scientific method are the people who want to utilize the power of the word science when in fact they only have pseudoscience. They need to grease the skids for their assertions. Same thing goes when they say that it doesn't prove things, because they need the wiggle room to be able to change their just so stories when they get proven wrong. But science is a method, and if you adhere to it, you absolutely vary your independent variable to prove it causes the effect. That's what it is. It's fairly straightforward, it's fairly narrow, but ultimately speaking, it has a level of empiricism that is useful to hijack if you only have just so stories. Like astrophysicists, for example, they look at lights in the sky. That's what they do. Well, what do they do thereafter? Well, they tell you what your world is. Well, it'd be useful to have something that gave that some weight, something that was a bit more believable. Well, yeah, you say the word science and everyone goes, oh, right, science.
How about a little bit more empirical?
No, you got it all wrong. Listen, it's the Nathan method or the John method. It's your method, Nathan. It's not the scientific method. Bob at Ballbusters, after conceding, changed his mind, and Brenda always says it's your method. There's no scientific method.
Well, there is just the scientific method. It's as described. It's not mine. It's not John's. It's just a method that's been very useful and is asserted quite often by our opposing side. Amazing how they have to decry the very thing they utilise to give gravitas to their claims in regards to spinning balls flying through a vacuum.
But it's more like a historical reference than a technical reference, really, to them.
When was the last time someone on their side used the actual scientific method properly?
Very rarely. It's very rarely actually got a genuine attribution or justified attributes being given to anything there, so ever. That's why it's so useful. So when we charge people with providing scientific evidence, it's because they've claimed science. So this discussion happened yesterday with Nathan Thompson. It's like he was saying that the evidence we need to adhere to is scientific evidence. It's like, no, there's many questions that fall outside of science. However, our opponents, the globetards, assert science all the time. That's why it's put down as the standard. Oh, science, you say? Well, let's have a look and see how scientific this is. Oh, what's that? It's not. Shock horror. Like, always. It's never science, is it? Just applying their own yardstick. That's my point.
There is actually something I wanted to address because the other day after, I was having a conversation with Brenda and someone else I forgot, but basically they were I had them. Sorry, I stated what the scientific method was, and I had made a point in saying that the phenomena has to be a part of the physical and natural world, as in not man-made. And basically, the rebuttal to that was it can be something that is man-made. Anything that is physical is a part of the natural world in science, and then we just kind of ended up going back and forth with that. So I was wondering if you could address that point.
Or do you want to next time ask them for their toaster oven theories or their... Yeah? So, no. If you're trying to establish the cause of an effect and you're dealing with something that man made, well, what's the cause of it? Well, man made it. There's your cause. Man made it. So that's why science explicitly and only deals with natural phenomena. That's what science is interested in, the physical and natural world. Well, what's natural? Not man-made.
I still have to every now and then remind you that I kind of disagree with that concept. It's basically a minor difference where I don't go there and just say, look, that natural really only opposes supernatural, as in things that are purely deduction based. I totally agree still to the independent variable, of course, has to be the cause, all that. It's a minor difference, But yes.
Okay, I'll ask the same question. So, are you saying toasters are supernatural, Arwin?
No, they're complex.
Oh, really? Just a man-made machine, Arwin?
No, anything that you would relate to that would be very complex. It would be shoved off basically to industrial designers rather than to science.
Right. In other words, man made it, and you can look at the man that made it for the explanation
but
of how he
just
made it.
because a man
rather than
makes something,
science.
I don't think that has to then per definition exclude it. That's just my opinion. It still has to be a real thing though, and not just a deduced concept.
Yeah,
that is how I emphasize it.
Nicely sidestepped. You knew where that was going. Yes, I
But just
totally
like with
agree with you,
gravity,
Arwin.
like, gravity
Absolutely.
is conceptual. But
Absolutely. The
there are
phenomena
physical
must be
traces
real.
of it in that sense.
We're in agreement. We're stepping on each other and we're in agreement. So yeah, your natural phenomena must be real. It's not some assumed thing that you can't experience. I don't know who it said it earlier, but when gravity came up, what's gravity? Show me gravity. And they go, have you never seen a feather and a bowling ball? Yeah, I've seen a feather and a bowling ball. Do you want to show me gravity? Well, I just did, feather and bowling ball. No, that was a feather and bowling ball. No, but I pushed it into disequilibrium first. Yeah. And show me gravity.
Exactly.
If I may for a second, I would like to give an example as to why I would not exclude man-made things absolutely. Although you have to be very careful threading into that direction because things can become very complex and everything. But for example, a laser is a thing. It has specific effects and elements and new phenomena that could never be created by nature. It would never be observed.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Time, but this is not changed. It has not changed in the last year. My view on this.
No.
That's why I never bring it up as an argument.
Your tone of voice is fine, and your motive is fine. I just want to. Well, I'll just start talking now because I don't know where he's at. The fire, and John's example of boiling water. Now, fire, is it man-made or is it natural or is it both?
Well, it could be natural, but it will likely end up, if you want to demonstrate it, or especially repeat the experiment, not to be natural, but man-made.
But fire itself is natural.
Well, that depends on what made it. You know,
Well, let's say,
look, you can have a normal chemical fire with wood, for example, but you could also have other types of fire that would naturally not occur.
For the sake of empirical science and the scientific method, if you're going to do an observation of water boiling in a hot spring, and you're trying to figure out.
Let's just give another example: an electric water heater.
No, first, let's finish the fire one. There's a point I want to make here. Fire is natural, but man can also make fire, correct?
Sorry? Your volume is a bit low.
Someone said the sound cut off on YouTube.
Yeah, I was just reading that in the chat. I think I must have muddled up the mute buttons. Oh well.
Right, it was all an accident, right, Nathan?
No.
Just kidding.
Arwin. So, Arwin, fire is natural, but man could also make fire, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then when we want to see why water boils, we don't wait for a lightning strike to start a fire and then put a pot of water on it. No, so we make the fire because we know how fire is, what causes fire and wood burns and so forth.
But there's a small issue to this. There's a small issue to this train of thinking, and I have explained this before on my Hangouts, and that is water doesn't just heat with fire. You have to have a container. So to combine that all naturally is not very likely.
I'm not even going there. You're going somewhere else than I'm going. You're actually going to open up another side note here, probably. I'm just saying, in the scientific method that Jessica was talking about, it's observing something in the natural world. right? So what have we observed in the natural world? We've seen forest fires caused by lightning, all kinds of reasons. Okay. So, or a lava flow that hits a
There's
tree.
not really a lot of people that actually see that with their own eyes. It is caught on camera, however. Is
Okay.
that still a natural phenomenon?
Well, a
Did
lava
they
flow.
actually witness it?
A lava flow in Hawaii hitting a house and the house burns. Is that natural?
Well, we might see a recording of it, but how many people will actually see it with their own eyes?
Oh, come on. Let's have a discussion.
Yeah, but this is about the man-made argument, and I'm just showing how terrible it really is.
Okay, it's
if you use that.
Okay, it's my house in Hawaii, and I'm running from the lava, and it burns my house down. Do you believe it now?
Well, could you demonstrate that, please?
Yeah, next housekeeping.
You know what I mean?
Except it burnt down.
Yeah, because like that's another thing. Like that was a really good point that has been made. Like fire is something that is natural, but it's also man-made. It's something that can be literally like you can vary and manipulate fire in itself. Like it's like I call it like the perfect independent variable in any type of like experiment term, especially since you can have like the red fire, then you can have a blue fire, then a white fire. Like you can have different variations of it. But it's also that's why it's so like even when you're trying to define something as natural, even like in like using a scientific method, I can see how that can be iffy for some people. It's like what is like if something can be created by man, and if something like or like it gets I can see how that ends up contradicting itself to a certain extent. But you still have to like if you're trying to understand what the effect is, I think that's when it becomes different. Like I think the independent variable can kind of vary, and that's what never mind. I'm going off a rocker. But that's
In
independent variable.
In science, the
really
word natural applies to things that are man-made. So
the thing is,
colloquially speaking, there's a difference between natural and man-made. But in science, when they say natural, they're just talking about anything that's a part of the physical world.
Right, and in that you
would be
agree with
anything
me,
man-made.
Mars. So we agree. At that point, it's kind of funny. But yeah,
but I wouldn't consider an iPhone.
Is that there's so many things that we could never found on scientific proof if we weren't capable of basing it on man-made devices. Like for example, lenses. Try and find that not man-made. Well, you could basically scoop out the eye of a giant creature and try to attempt that temporarily, use that as a lens. Very weird, freaky thing to do. But see, so many things, yes, are based on nature, sort of. Just happens to be that way. We're taking an example on nature with our designs. But a lot of what we really do is still based on developments on a lot of things that are just trial and error based, and we don't really actually absolutely know what causes it. It just seems to work in a certain way. And it's the entire industry and physics, especially in the weirder regions, is filled up with that. Just so many phenomena that kind of be like, yeah, we don't really know how to interpret this and everything. And
let me try again.
Something else at play. There's always this.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Paul, go ahead.
I think what's going on.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
That's okay. I think just listening, which I try to do a lot of here. It's our understanding of the natural world that causes us to be able to create technology. You guys were using the illustration of fire earlier, and the thought I kept thinking of is, a combustion engine is really based upon the concept of fire. You burn the fuel to create.
Hey guys, are you still going with this, or can I jump in for a second?
I'm talking at the moment. Hang on, I'm still going.
Great.
Can everybody hear everyone? Because Paul was just talking. Could you hear him?
Oh no, I couldn't.
Oh damn it! It's Hangouts again.
Okay.
Screwing it happened on Patricia's Hangout yesterday as well. Did you take notice?
No,
it was Wednesday.
So guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you, Paul.
Gus,
Go
can
on.
you hear me at all?
I
can
can
You
hear
guys
you.
hear me
Paul,
though?
I hear you.
but
Okay.
the other guy can't.
Okay. Okay.
Is Paul
Um,
talking right
My
now?
idea,
Yes.
It's interesting. I can't.
Sorry.
Sorry if I interrupted.
Oh, Nathan.
there comes John, of course.
Hello, John.
Well,
how
my
you doing?
idea, my
I'm
thing.
not going there.
Hey, your sound got cut off.
Yeah, at the
Who,
end of the
me?
outro.
Who?
Yeah, I know. The chat told me after the outro.
Okay.
Just one of those things. Sorry, just before I
Nathan,
come
can you
away
hear?
from the hangout, can you see what's on my screen?
Yes.
There's the natural world, all of the animals, plants, and other things existing in nature, and not made or caused by people. Can you all read that?
Yeah, but there's a different definition of natural world for science.
Sorry, this is Merriam-Webster. Anybody ever heard of them?
Nathan, I mean, please, you know there's different definitions to words. There's not just one definition to a word.
Do you want to
The
bring...
dependent variable has to be natural. You're looking for the cause of the dependent variable. If your dependent variable is caused by man, then your independent variable's man, you friggin' knucklehead.
No, that's incorrect.
Oh, you know what's incorrect? Your IQ. It's not -1, it's -18.
All right, well, whenever you make a real argument, then we can have a conversation.
Yeah, it is a real
These
argument.
are not real art. It's not a real argument.
I'll make a.
You're a clown. Give us,
I'll
share his screen and let him go through the scientific part.
I'll make
You know,
a
I
real
never
I
got
mean,
my
you're just
thought
making,
out,
you're just arguing
by the way.
semantics. It's
Sorry.
quite pathetic.
Yeah.
Arguing semantics.
You are pathetic.
Go on, Paul. You were in the
Semantical
middle...
argument is
You're-
bullshit. You
before-
know that. We all know that. We all know you're fake.
Yeah, you all know. You don't know anything. You're
P.
retarded.
Mars, you have any proof of your globe?
It's gone,
P.
it's gone,
Mars,
it's gone.
you have any proof of your globe?
Your
No,
actors.
right? No, right?
Peachy exposed you all.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here every day with your same bullshit,
Can't
bro.
hear
You
you,
have no
Nathan.
proof for
I
your
know.
stupid globe. So calm the fuck down.
Hey, P. Mars, let me read you something I read yesterday.
Don't read him anything.
Hold on a second.
kick his
Hold
ass
on. Can I
outta
try
here.
and get some order just for 1 second? Paul was in the middle of a thought before that all kicked off. There, Paul?
Yeah, can I try to get back?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm here. I was just waiting for the
Go ahead, Paul, because you actually have something to contribute as opposed to P. Mars.
Okay. Okay. Back to my thought. You know, our understanding of the natural world, however you define it, I'm not going to get into that just for the moment, but we use the illustration of fire. The idea of the combustion engine is we begin to understand what fire is and what fire does from the natural world. So we took that application and applied it to developing a combustion engine. We learned if we pour water over an object, it cools it off. We applied that technology to the cooling system inside the combustion engine. So it's like there is in a sense, why this water gets muddied, in my opinion, is because we're taking the principles we're learning from the natural world and developing technology regarding that. And I think I think there is a cause and effect relationship even in technology. So I think because if for some reason, my car doesn't start, I have to figure out what's the cause of that. Why will it not start? So I have to figure out what's causing that, or even the turning of the ignition, the different causal chain that causes the engine to turn over and start.
That's not science.
So there is a causal relation.
That's not natural science.
I'm just talking
That's
about.
where you're going wrong. We're talking about natural science. Yes, there's cause and effect relationships everywhere, but not natural
I'm talking about cause
science.
and effect. I'm talking about technology. I'm talking about how, John, I'm talking about how we apply our understanding through the scientific method to apply that to create technology. I'm just saying that this is, I think, where we're getting a mix-up is because we're trying to pull the two together.
No one's mixed up. You got P. Mars on the panel. No one's mixed up. Just kick his ass off out of here, and then let's move on.
Not mixed up. I'm correct.
Hey, P. Mars.
Oh God, here we go. You're gonna give him another example, right?
For
crying out loud, folks. Hey, Arwen, are you here?
Yeah, Arwen's here.
Kick his ass out of here, Arwen.
Hey, Nathan, can you read that definition before I read what I want to again?
God.
Sure. The natural world, all of the animals, plants, and other things existing in nature are not made or caused by people.
Okay. All meaningful words reflect the properties of similarity and difference. A word that means everything actually means nothing. To be meaningful, a word must both affirm something and deny something. It must refer to what it is and not refer to what it is not. In this sense, all science is taxonomy, because taxonomy involves the content of discrete ideas that can be distinguished from the content of other discrete ideas. Last part. The more complex and discriminate knowledge becomes, the more precise the science. So, P. Mars, there's the description that Nathan read. Words mean something and negate something else. You're trying to say it means both, positive, negative, when you disclaim what you say.
And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, hopefully with some audio this time, to all of the Nathan Oakley 1980 audience for tuning in again, smashing the super chat, hopefully liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. If you need to keep yourself occupied after this stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!